Thank you very much. So this morning we were talking about mistakes, fear of making mistakes. So I too was just saying to Carly, I assumed that Carly had done her BA illustration, but actually you did your MA children's book illustration here. You originally did textiles, didn't you? Yeah. So a graduate of the MA children's books, we've got quite a few people from the children's book MA here today. He's here to talk to you about illustration and your career, Carly. Yeah. So warm welcome for Carly.
Hello, you all hear me? Is this okay? Cool. Hi, I'm Carly Gledhill. I'm an illustrator. I'm going to read you a bit of the bio from our website because I always go back to this when I know who I am. I'm a children's book author and illustrator, and I'm also a print designer and educator. I'm from Huddersfield in West Yorkshire, and I'm now based in Manchester. I do 3 jobs at the moment. So I write and illustrate books most of the time. I teach at Sheffield Hallam University on an illustration course 1 day a week, and I'm also a print and surface pattern designer. So yeah, I do a little bit of everything, but it keeps it exciting, and I like different challenges, and no day is the same, so that's really interesting. My background and my inspiration comes from a love of colour. I really take a lot of inspiration from 90s kids TV, which I'll come back to later. I love slapstick humour, anything silly makes me laugh. I'm inspired by mid-century design, hours spent gardening and staring at my garden because my studio has a big window that looks out on it, so every time a squirrel runs past I'm like, ooh, I forgot what I'm doing, I'm looking at a squirrel. Yeah, and I also really love gardening, and I love drawing flowers. There's a lot of flowers in my work, and probably too many actually, but I just love drawing them. I completed my MA in children's book illustration here in 2011. I started in 2009, and I illustrate picture, novelty and board books for some of the big publishers, including Macmillan, Penguin Random House and Anderson Press. So I'm going to talk to you about kind of my route into children's book publishing, and I didn't come from a conventional background. I did study textile design first. So when I got into children's books, I was greatly inspired by an artist called Bruno Munari. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He was an Italian futurist designer, and he designed products, furniture, advertising, graphics, kind of back in the days when you could just do whatever you wanted, a bit of everything, and he was really good at everything, and I really like his work. And he started making children's books when he had his own children, and they're really funny and really silly, and a lot of them don't have a narrative, they're just a lot of beautiful pictures and colours, and he really played with the format of the book, like punching holes through, cutting off corners of pages. And these books must cost a fortune to publish, but they're just beautiful items, so I was really inspired by these. So I studied textile design, so I was really into surface pattern and colour, and a lot of that fed into my work that I did for my masters. So these were some of the books that I made while I was here at UCLan, and you might notice that none of them have any words in, and that's because I was terrified of writing a story, so I tried to avoid it best I could, and made novelty books. So this was my way around having to write a story. There's a lot of pop-ups, a lot of kind of pull-out books, pop-up books, flat books, and they're really uncommercial. They're artist books really, so I kind of graduated not really knowing how to bring this into the actual commercial world of publishing. This was my degree show here downstairs, and you can see there's a lot of textile design elements came into these books as well. There's a lot of pockets, a lot of kind of bits of text and type put into them. Again, no stories, just like nonsensical phrases. And this was my degree show. And then I graduated in 2011, and I didn't really know what to do. I was working for Next as a children's wear designer, and I lived in Leicester, so I was doing this part-time and also designing children's clothing, which I liked at the beginning, but then kind of, it was very commercial, it was very pink and blue, they make it really cute and not very creative, so I decided at this point to leave my job and my security and go freelance and try and get into the world of illustration. So 2011 onwards, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. I didn't know anyone in publishing. I didn't really know any illustrators or any creative people. So I was like, what do I do now? So my first step was to get a job as a surface pattern designer. So this was a 3-day-a-week job, and I worked for a studio called Paper and Cloth. And here we created graphic packs of character design, surface pattern design, and patterns, and we sold them to big companies. So there'd be trade shows in New York and Paris, and my studio would take these designs and sell them to big companies. So the one on the left was sold to Paperchase, and I did a lot of work that was bought by them. R.I.P. Paperchase, it's so sad it's gone. But this was quite an exciting job because I'd create these designs and they'd sell, and then I wouldn't know who to, because my boss was very secretive, and I would walk into a shop and see them. So Paperchase is obviously a really nice one to be in, and then I had this collection in H&M with this safari print which turned into this entire collection and some toys. So it's exciting to never knew what products the designs were going to end up on. I think I even had like rugs and wallpaper and bedding that the designs were on, so that was really cool. And at the time, I started my own children's brand, because I thought I could do this myself. Like, I really want to put what I've learned on my masters into practice. I've kind of started to develop my own style and like making toys and textiles. I started a brand called Corby Tindersticks, and this was in about 2012, and there weren't many children's brands doing this kind of thing at the time, so it did quite well to begin with. I took it to London to a trade show, I had a collection of clothing and toys that I'd made myself, and I managed to sell them into shops all over the world, which was really exciting. Big shops like Anthropology, the Urban Outfitters, the Yorkshire Sculpture Park stocked it, and the South Bank Centre, so it's kind of like design-led shops that bought this kind of thing. I was making all the toys myself as well there, and at one point I had orders for hundreds of these weather maps, which was soul destroying, but good so to its money. So I have to like sew each individual piece of this, put some Velcro on the back of it, package it up, and after a few years of doing it, I thought, oh, I've had enough of this. It's too much like hard work, and I'm sure drawing characters is a little bit easier and might make me a little bit more money than this. So I thought, I've had enough, but I had got an email from Mamas and Papas, who are based in Huddersfield. They're a big children's clothing and accessories retailer all across the country, and they wanted to use my design and my brand name on a collaborative collection. So they took some designs that I did that didn't take me very long really, and paid me to make this collection. And this was this kind of stuff that I really wished I could have made for my own brand, but didn't have the resources or the money or time to make this kind of thing. So this was in all the shops, and there was like a little picture of my face in the shop, which made my mum really proud. She doesn't understand what I do, so that was really nice. And this was a really nice way to kind of wind up this part of my life, really. So after I finished Corby Tindersticks, I thought, right, now's the time. I'm going to be a children's book illustrator. I want to be like proper good at it. What do I do? I feel like I've got to a point where my work could be suitable for picture books. I took all that experience I'd gained, and again, didn't know where to start, didn't know anyone. So I bought this book. I don't know if any of you have seen this one before. It was a really great resource. It's got great advice from publishers, illustrators and authors in it about how to get into the industry, lots of advice about agents and what to do. So that was where I started. And at the time it was kind of a point where there wasn't much social media, so there weren't networks for me to join. It wasn't as easy to contact people within publishing, so this was a great place to start. And if any of you have heard of Orange Beak Studio, yeah. I wish this was around at that time, because they have some really great talks on with top illustrators and authors, and I really enjoy listening to them. So if any of you are interested in getting into the industry, I'd definitely say see what Orange Beak have got on. I think it's about £12 to watch one of the talks, but it's definitely worth it because you'll learn a lot. I also started entering competitions. I don't know if any of you enter competitions or, yeah. This was just for fun really, just to develop my portfolio, to try my hand at different briefs and drawing things that I wouldn't normally draw. And it didn't really matter whether I did well in the competition or whether it was successful. That wasn't the point of it really, it was just to kind of develop my style and give it a try. And recently I've had some nice outcomes. I was a selected illustrator at the Cheltenham Illustration Awards last year, and I've also had my work exhibited in China the last 3 years, which is really exciting. I ended up on TV in Shanghai, which was very funny. But yeah, you never know what's going to happen, who's going to see this work, so I'd definitely give it a go if you fancy having a go at competition. There's a really good website called graphiccompetitions.com. Don't know if any of you have seen that, but they have all the graphic design, photography and illustration competitions listed with all the requirements, so it's dead easy to find them on there. And I also enter yearly the Illustrators Exhibition at the Borneo Children's Book Fair. Have any of you been to the book fair? Are you going? Oh, exciting, brilliant. Yes, I've entered that probably every year since I graduated, and I finally got in this year to the exhibition, so I'm really excited. I went to Borneo in 2011, so these are my really crap pictures taken on 1 megapixel camera of the show. It was really overwhelming, I'm sure you're going to find that out. There's so much there. It's where all the publishers across the world go to try and sell rights of their books, so everyone is there. And the illustration exhibition is really exciting. They have an illustration survival corner with talks and nice things happening for illustrators, so it's really welcoming. And they also have the illustrators wall. So this nowadays is probably about 100 metres long. It's huge and it's just covered in posters and business cards from all the illustrators that visit. So if you go and make sure you take something that's going to stand out and get there early and get it stuck up there. And my kind of final step really was to get an agent. This is my current agent, that's me, but my current agent is Jodie Hodges at United Agents. She's my second agent. My first agent I left because I was having to chase up getting paid, and I didn't want to chase up getting paid because I can do that myself, so I was like, I'm going to change to someone that's a bit more reliable. And I would say advice on getting an agent: make sure you like them, get on with them, because you're going to be working with them quite a lot. You need to trust them. You need to know that they're going to shape your career in a way that you want it to go. So I was really lucky that Jodie reached out to me and I signed up with her. I've been working with her for about 5 years and we have a really good relationship. We got on really well, and she only takes 15% commission plus VAT, whereas my last agent took 35%. So I'd say don't sign up for 35%. It's way too much of your income. Try and get as low as you can. But yeah, mine's 15. It's because she's a literary agent mainly. She does have illustrators on her books too, but literary agents tend to take less percentage. I don't know why illustrators just always get ripped off, don't we? So, yeah. So again, another step in my career. What next? Develop my portfolio, and now I want to write a picture book. And as I said earlier, it's really difficult and I really struggled. And this is what I found when I tried it. Yeah, it took me ages. I spent about a month after moving from London to Manchester. I thought, now's the time, my rent's gone down, I've got a bit of space. I've got about 4 weeks before I have to get back to work, so I'm going to try and write this picture book. And I tried to write a version of The Famous Five, but with dogs, and it was terrible. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. And then I found this guy hiding in a folder in my Dropbox, and I was like, oh, he's really funny. I like him, what could he do? And then going back to the 90s kids TV, I don't know if any of you recognise Huey and Deanna. You're probably a bit too young for this, but I absolutely love this programme. Batman and Robin, like the proper old school slapstick version, Calvin and Hobbes, SpongeBob, and later on a bit of Seinfeld. And the thing that these all have in common is that they're best friends who like hanging out together. So I thought this is a nice way to start. Apart from SpongeBob, he has a lot of friends, which is very nice. But I thought maybe I should write a book about best friends. And I wrote the book in a week. It came to me really quickly. Monty and Sylvester, tale of everyday superheroes. It's about two best friends. It's about them just playing and having fun together and using their imagination. So I wrote it within a week. The week later I had a book deal. It happened really quickly with Hachette, who are one of the big 5 publishers in the UK, and this book got made. That was really exciting. And then they gave me a 2-book deal, so there was a sequel as well, which was Monty Sylvester, oh my god, what was it called? A Tale of Everyday Astronauts. So I sent them to space in their own handmade rocket, which was super fun, and there's the cover. And one of the reasons that I finally made myself write the book was because I'm a bit lazy and I wanted to illustrate what I want to illustrate. So that's a really nice way of going around it. If you don't want to draw unicorns or llamas or anything that's popular. Pooh is massive at the moment. I don't know if you've seen that if you're into picture books. There's a lot of books about Pooh. Not my thing. So yeah, I write the books so that I can choose what I put in them. And this was really exciting. A few years after this was published, a production company got in touch with me and they wanted to buy the rights to make it into a TV show. So this is probably the most exciting thing that's happened to me so far. I got to work with the company developing the scripts and the Bible, the look of it to pitch to broadcasters. It was so exciting. It was like a dream come true for me. And that's kind of the look that the company went with. It didn't get greenlit in the end, so it's not going to be made, but I feel like I learned loads doing this process, and just never know in publishing. It's very exciting. You just don't know what's going to happen even years after your book's been published. It's still got a life of its own afterwards. So on that line as well, I did a board book series and it changed my life. So I'm going to show you how. So the brief was from Penguin in America, and they wanted to take classic stories and update them for a modern audience. So using the characters of different nationalities, different ethnicities, and kind of bringing it into the present day. So I did Jack and the Beanstalk set in Brooklyn, New York, and I did Three Little Pigs where the pigs are girls, because why should they all be boys? I think even the wolf was a girl. So it was just kind of taking a bit of a twist on these classic tales and making them more appropriate for nowadays. So it was a really fun brief and I loved working on it, and it brought me some exciting things as well. So the company bought the rights to make jigsaws out of them, a company called New York Puzzle Company. You can see them here. And this is Kamala Harris, the Vice President of America, and her husband buying some of them a few years ago. So that was really exciting. So I'm going to put that on my CV now that Kamala Harris is a fan. And I also have a relationship with Dolly. She chose one of my books for the Imagination Library in America. Well, she didn't, her team did, but I like to think she's seen it. But the Imagination Library is a great concept. It gives children in America a free book every month from when they're born up until they're 5 years old and go to school. Dolly is amazing. She's just such a hero. So she started this initiative, and my book was chosen for 2 years, and over 800,000 copies of it were printed and sent out to kids in America, which just blows my mind. And I got my first ever royalties on this book. Because in publishing, you get paid in advance first, which is supposed to give you enough money to live off while you're making the book, and then you get royalties if you then earn that back, which I'm sure a lot of you know. But I don't often earn it back, so on this one, I was like, wow, I've got some money. It was actually life-changing. I bought a new kitchen, so thank you so much for that. And then more recently, I got given a really exciting brief by Macmillan Publishers, who I still work with now, and their brief was to create interactive edutainment books, so educational and interactive and fun, and aimed at 2 to 3-year-olds. So this was a really exciting brief. I was thinking back to my love of Bruno Munari and like playing with the die cuts and punching holes through the pages. So I worked on these through lockdown in 2020, and they kept me going in that horrible year. So this was a really nice project to work on. There's 4 in total. This frog goes on holiday. I think this one's based on my dad and his caravan. And there's Chameleon's favourite colour, which is about different colours. It was great to work on these and think about when the die cuts are in the pages, like what you see both forwards and back. So it was quite challenging to work that out, but it's not something you get to do all the time in picture books, so I really embraced it and had a lot of fun with it. And this is the final one that's going to come out next week, I think, the 22nd of February. This will be published. So yeah, I've been working on those. And Finally, the importance of having time to play is a massive thing for me. I talked about doing the competition briefs, and that's a big part of it. That gives me an actual deadline where I have to do something, because a lot of time work gets in the way and I think, oh, I should be earning money, I should be doing it. But competition briefs, I actually think, alright, if I could get something out of this that's worth doing. So I just had a lot of fun. Last year was quite a quiet year for me work-wise. Kind of, there's ups and downs in any freelance career, but last year was especially quiet. So I had a lot of time to play. And I do a lot of work that just makes me laugh, like thinking of stupid donut types like sea sponge and avocado and scrunchie. So just like really silly things that I like. And I think having these in your portfolio really sets you apart, because it shows there's a sense of humour in my work, and that's what a lot of people like. And also just having freedom with the colours and the characters and just really going for it and just doing stuff that I want to do. And having this in my portfolio then shows that this is the kind of work that I want to do, this is the kind of work that I want to get hired for, and hopefully the publishers will come and have a look. This is my entry into the Illustrators exhibition at the Bologna Fair this year, so I really went for it with some of the textures. I've really been messing about with them a lot this year. I tend to draw using a Wacom tablet, so I draw using the magnetic tool and then I fill in the colour. I use different types of textures as well. A lot of them I make myself. A lot of them out of like rubbish that I find, like beach combing or like leaves in my garden. So I create the textures with ink and then I scan them in and use them on Photoshop. And a lot of publishers kind of say that they really like that there's a handmade element in it, because nowadays not a lot of people can do, well, not a lot of people choose to do handmade elements because it's a lot easier to do Procreate and kind of bought brushes, so it kind of sets me apart a little bit. And that's another piece for it. I found in lockdown I was drawing boats a lot. I think it was trying to escape my room and think about places elsewhere, so I drew about 100 boats, but I do like them. And this is an idea for a new book that I came up with last year. Again, it's really silly. It's about a box that gets posted to someone's best friend and ends up in space. And it gets picked up by an alien who carries it, but it's okay because the alien is the postee from the planet, so all ends well. A lot of my stories now use a really simple format, so I have a beginning, a middle, a twist with a bit of peril, which then resolves itself at the ending. So as I'm not a natural writer, that's kind of the format I use to make a story, really, because I find it very, very hard to write, but that kind of works for me. The peril's always the fun bit. He's the peril in this one, but it always works out all right in the end. And this was for a poster competition. I thought I'd try something a little bit different here, and it's for a competition in Italy about getting children reading. So I kind of used the kids on a march, yay for reading type scene on here, the different characters. And that is me. I'm sorry if that was really quick. I feel like I was just Any questions?
I noticed on your website that you also wrote stories from the Bible. Is it hard working with like kind of that situation, because obviously you've got to also follow the religious aspect of it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And when I was offered that work, I kind of thought hard about it, whether, because I'm an atheist, so I don't know much about the Bible or what happens with it. So it does require extra research, and it was definitely something I considered not doing as well. I wasn't sure whether it was right for me. But then I saw the fee and I thought, yeah, I can do this. So I gave it a go. It was for an American publisher, and my experience of working with American publishers is that they pay a lot more than UK publishers, and they also don't have as many amends. There's a bit more freedom. So I was surprised by how few amends I got. I think it was like one, I did a sword wrong, it wasn't right, so I just changed it. But yeah. It was a challenge as well for me, because I don't really like drawing humans, as you've probably seen. There's not a single human, apart from my classics. Yeah, there's not many humans in here. I much prefer drawing silly animals. So yeah, it was a challenge and I really enjoyed it actually. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
What other like how do you use to make textures? I know I've got like these watercolors that make a really nice like corally silver texture, and I made like little colory things for it's called midnight skaters, and they all look like little, just like the nicest skating on me and everything. But I just want to know what you use to make your own like textures. And
Okay.
stuff.
I've used all sorts. I went on holiday to Kent last year and picked up like seaweed and like spongy things, sticks, like anything off the beach, and then went back to my room and with just a bottle of ink, black ink, and just like played with them, like testing different ways of mark making. And some of them don't work, but some of them look really nice. And I'm again quite lazy, so I tend to make one kind of set a year and then just continue using them for all my work. So. I could probably just get away with reusing them, but I do actually really like making them, so I do tend to have a go once a year at making some new ones. But yeah, anything, it's maybe just start collecting stuff now. That's a really nice idea, like anything you see, like food packets or leaves or anything. And yeah, ink is the way forward. It's really nice. I don't know if you use Photoshop, I use the threshold tool. Once I've scanned it in, you can play with the levels of how dark it is or how much detail there is in it. And so you kind of get a few different variations from one page of textures, which is really nice. Any more?
I adore your work, it's absolutely stunning. I think I know the answer to this question already. Your work is so cutting edge, and I think that's probably because you've just got a natural raw intuition. But I wondered if there was any advice you could give us as to how to stay current, and is there anything that you do to make sure that your work is, because you're so forward thinking and your work is very evolving, and how do you make sure that you stay on top, because it's very cutting edge.
Thank you. That's a nice thing to say. Yeah, it's hard work, like continuing to move it on all the time, but it keeps me interested, so I really like doing it. I think it comes from like my fashion background, looking like ahead at like trends in things that aren't illustration. I think illustration sometimes is a little bit behind on the trends, whereas like graphic design, fashion, textiles are a bit further ahead. So I look a lot to those areas and what's going on in there and kind of take from that. And colour is a massive thing for me as well. I like using colour that's a bit different from everyone else's, and it's not always publishable. I often get told that I need to brighten it up. Like, I don't think this would ever end up in a picture book because it's too dark. But I just love like messing around and playing with different colour, and I think that makes it stand out a lot as well. But yeah, I think the playtime element of it is massive, like giving yourself that time to not work on briefs, but to work on fun things, and it kind of just comes naturally, I think, and yeah, you'll find it. Any more? Oh.
How do you work through an artist block?
Sorry, can you say?
How do you work through like a creative block?
Oh, I think having done it for about 15 years now, it's like knowing when to have a break, go for a walk, and sometimes it can be a fortnight, and that's not great when you've got a deadline to work on, but I think you just have to give yourself that freedom to know when to stop. And I think as well, being female, there's certain times of the month where I just cannot sit at my desk and just do work because I'm not in the mood. So I think it's learning that as well, like what works for you, what weeks you're feeling creative, sit down and work then. It's very hard in modern life to be able to do that, but it comes, and there's days when you feel fantastic and the work's brilliant, and then there's other days when you just can't do it. Yeah, I walk my dog, or go into Manchester and have a look around the shops or a museum or something, and try and find a bit of space and a bit of peace, and go back a bit refreshed. So that's what I do.
What advice would you give to students who are going to Bologna this year to get the most out of the trip?
Don't expect too much from yourself. I think go with an open mind, but don't put too much pressure on yourself to make it work, because it is overwhelming once you get there. So the illustrator's wall, take something nice to put on that, and maybe think out of the box, because there's so much stuff on there and it's visually really confusing to look at. So think about how you can stand out. Maybe less is more when it comes to what you put on the wall. tape business cards as well. I forgot to put a picture of mine when I went. I made like little felt toys, which are very similar to the work that I did for my degree show. So I made little toys with little felt hats on, and then I tied my business card details around the neck, and a lot of the publishers thought they were hilarious and kept them. So that's a nice way of standing out. There's portfolio reviews, I think, on some of the publishers do. I think Fine Eye do one. So look, before you go, it might be worth having a look, see if you can make any appointments to see any of the publishers out there. Not all of them do it, but some of them do. And there's also, usually on an afternoon, a few publishers do portfolio reviews, so you can join a really long queue and hopefully get your portfolio seen by some of the publishers there. But yeah, go with an open mind. Enjoy being in Bologna as well, it's really nice. And yeah, just talk to anyone, because it's a really friendly industry. Everyone knows everyone, so everyone's there to help. And if any of you've got any questions you want to ask me afterwards, I'm on Instagram and I'm always open to helping and giving advice. So if you've got anything you want to ask me afterwards, I'm Carly_Gledhill on Instagram, so get in touch. Any more?
Yeah, I know that obviously you've been approached a lot, and but when you talked about in the early days with paper and cloth, for example, was it yourself who approached them, and how did you go about your first sort of getting your first roles? Because you know, when you work part time, for example. Was that
Yeah. What did I do? I think they already knew of my work because of my brand that I had, so they knew of me, and then I think I applied to them when they had an advert. This is there was a great website called Print and Pattern, and it's a blog, and they also have a job listing page which has got a lot of surface pattern and textile design jobs on. So I think I probably found it on there and applied. Yeah, it's a lot of putting yourself out there. I think. Nowadays, having a website definitely helps. And with my agent, every year at the beginning of the year, we have an illustration showcase where all the illustrators bring their work to London, and we have it laid out, and then all the publishers come and have a drink and talk to us. So that's a really nice way of doing it. So if you're looking to get an agent, maybe see how they'll put you forward as well.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, no, definitely.
How did you get your agents? Did you approach them, or did they approach you? Or?
The first one I approached them, and the second one approached me whilst I was with my first agent. So I was quite lucky that she reached out on Twitter and asked me if I had an agent, and I said yes, I do. But then changed my mind and said, is it still alright if you still want me? So yeah, luckily she did. But a lot of them are really friendly and will probably give you feedback if you're not right for them, or maybe put you in touch with someone else. But yeah, most of the time you have to reach out to them, because there's a lot of competition now. It's a bit different back in my day. There was a little bit less competition, so I think it was a bit easier. But nowadays with Instagram and everything, there's a lot out there. But Instagram also is a really great tool. I use it a lot and update it regularly, and it shows your latest work, so I definitely say keep up to date on that, because people do see it, and use your hashtags.
Is that
Yeah. Would you say it's important for when you're looking for an agent for them to have a similar style to yours, or can they be just completely different? Would they help the same?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's nice to stand out as well. You don't want an agent where they've got too many people that look the same, because then you won't stand out. So with my agent, the reason I went with her is because she had some really well-known illustrators and authors on her book. So I thought, oh, she must be good, because she's got these guys. She had Jim Fields, and I was like, wow. So yeah, and I'm very different to Jim Fields. So I think she purposely chooses people that are a little bit different to each other. So you're not doing the same job. If she's going out with her portfolio of artists, she wants to have a different look to each illustrator to make sure that everyone's getting work, and there's a bit for every publisher as well. If someone's looking for something specific, it needs to be that variety. So yeah, don't be put off if your work doesn't quite fit, because it might be what someone's looking for.
Thank you.
Is that everyone? Thank you very much.
Thank you.